Hey, Zach, just sorry about that. Just because you guys haven't made an official move yet, is Lindor definitely active tonight?
Yeah, we actually just communicated the move. We've optioned Blankenhorn and activated Lindor. So yeah, he'll be playing tonight.
Okay. As someone who is more analytically inclined, I know there's a camp of people who are driven strictly by the numbers who don't really believe in runners in scoring position being so much of a thing. How do you view runners in scoring position situations, and is there a reason why in your mind this group has struggled with it so much?
Well, I think there are. I mean, I believe situational hitting is important. It's a skill for some guys to be able to, if it's moving a guy over, for a guy from second with nobody out. Some guys change their approach, some guys don't. Some guys don't want to because they think it'll make it harder for them to actually execute what they're trying to do, but they all know what they're trying to do. I mean, they all want to try to do the right thing, move a guy or get a hit in the process a lot of times. They're trying to do both. So yeah, it's really important when teams struggle with that. It is hard to pinpoint why. There's sometimes it's because some guys are getting a little over anxious and they may chase out of the zone. Other times it's just there's some swing and miss, and that's kind of part of their skill set sometimes, and it just happens, and there's some good pitchers they're going up against. So it's hard to, you mentioned the analytical thing. So you often see very big fluctuations in this with individual players. And if you simply just looked at our team, the Mets last year in 2020, they struggle with runners in scoring position. And then we struggle with runners in scoring position this year so far. But if you actually broke it down and looked at the players who are currently on this team, what they did as a group last year, they actually were pretty good with runners in scoring position. So this isn't necessarily a chronic year-to-year thing for some of these guys. So it's hard to predict what's going to happen next. But there's definitely real reasons, real baseball reasons for why these things happen, and it's obviously important to hit. Timely hitting has always been a cliche phrase in baseball for a reason, because you need to have it.
Tony, you're next.
Hey, Zach, on your right. What are the next steps for Noah here going forward?
So Noah, today he threw a touch and feel, mostly just kind of to feel through his mechanics. I'm going to circle up with our performance group and talk through the next steps. Likely expect him to go on a rehab assignment soon. I don't have the specifics of exactly what day. I haven't checked in with him since he threw his touch and feel, so I will do that, and we'll determine. Most likely I'd say probably you'd expect a rehab assignment coming up hopefully this week.
So he's done with the live pitching, the live VPs he's been doing. His next big one will be a rehab assignment.
I mean, that was the last conversation I had, was that he would throw this kind of touch and feel side, and then we talk about depending on how that went, talk about going out on a rehab assignment.
And just one more on that topic. I know you don't have an exact number you can give, but presumably a rehab assignment, if he's coming back as a reliever, would be shorter. Do you have an idea in your mind of how many appearances you would want him to make, or how stretched out, if you want him to be multi-inning, like what your plan is there?
Yeah, that'll be part of the conversation. And you kind of have to take it as it goes to some degree, see how he does as if he starts lengthening out. Does that change the way he feels? Does it change the power in his stuff? We learn a lot as we go.
Justin?
Hey, Zach, on your left here. Just with DeGrom, when exactly is he scheduled for that next MRI or any other second opinion that you might have him get based off of that?
Tomorrow, today's Tuesday, so tomorrow he'll have that MRI. We'll get a look at kind of how things are progressing. If we see continued improvement like we saw the last time, then the expectation would be to start getting him on a throwing program.
And then if he can get on a throwing program, when's the soonest that you would expect that maybe he could get back to you guys?
It's hard to have an exact timeline on that. I mean, as you guys know, we transferred him to 60 days, so the absolute earliest he could come back would be September 13th, but I'd expect it to be after that. Not necessarily on that date, but sometime after that. So, but again, just like I said on Noah, it's something that we have to take it day by day. The whole point of ramping him up is to see if he can get back to where he needs to be before he can be activated without having, while remaining asymptomatic.
Thank you.
Good. Zach in the far back, Zach.
Hi, Zach. Can you talk about the dynamic with Lindor and Baez and what you're hoping to get both offensively and defensively, and what kind of lift it might present?
Yeah, I mean, they're both good players. They've had good careers. They both have a lot of energy. They're both very good defenders, very good base runners. They bring a lot to the table. They can impact the game in a lot of ways. So it's great to have, getting back both of those guys in the last couple days. So, they're exciting players, and they play with a ton of energy, which is always fun to watch.
Thank you.
Dave?
Hey, Zach, over here. Just back with DeGrom for a second. I mean, looking at the calendar and seeing the time they have left, and he'll essentially be starting from scratch based on the time that he missed. I mean, you're getting to a point where it's kind of almost shutdown time, no? Or is that?
Well, I would agree that it's late in the calendar, but I don't agree that it's necessarily shut down. I mean, you shut down a guy because there's real physical reasons to do that. That may present itself as we start a ramp up, but I think it's important for us to know, whether he pitches in a big league game or not. I think it's important for us to know where he's at the end of the season. So, that's not really what we're looking at right now.
Okay. And just with some of the contracts that are up, and your own status and Louis, have you guys is there an agreement with Sandy and Steve that it'll be just something you guys can address at the end of the year? There's been no conversations about extensions or changes in your title or those type of things?
Yeah, that's not what we're focused on. We're just focused on, trying to get on a run here and get back in this thing.
Greg, here on the right.
Zach, you said likely for Noah to come back as a reliever. Is that definite in your mind, or is there any chance that he could lengthen as a starter?
For Noah, is that what you said?
Yeah.
I think just with the where the calendar is, I mean, I think if you decide to try to bring a guy back with more length, it's just going to lengthen out how long it takes to get them back into a game. And so we can always change course. It doesn't affect the progression. Basically, it's when you stop the progression is what's affected. So we always learn new things about who's healthy on the major league roster and where we're at, and we'll figure out where the best fit is when we get a good look at how he's progressing.
Is that a conversation that you guys have had with Noah about going into that role?
I mean, it's not a formal conversation. I think it's kind of an obvious conversation that he knows it's going to be just we want to get him back to be in big league games because we think he can help us. And if he's stretched out for 3 innings and we decide that's what makes the most sense for the team at that time, then I think he knows he wants the same thing. He just wants to be able to help us win games.
Tim, there in the middle.
So with Noah, the progression, would it still be, one appearance every 5 days right at the start for him in rehab, or might he go sooner than that?
So that's one of the things I'm going to talk to the performance staff about, how we do that. Typically, even if you're ramping a guy up for a starter, you don't do it every 5 days all the time. You might do it once they start getting longer than 1 inning, you might start doing that. But I'll talk to them and we'll figure out exactly what plan makes the most sense.
And then with DeGrom, you said you're looking for continued improvement in the MRI. Does that mean the absence of any inflammation, or is it just if it's better, then you can start thinking about a throwing program?
Basically looking for, what clears him from the doctor to, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to pretend to know exactly what that means. But if the doctor says, okay, this is in a place where I feel comfortable, and Dr. Alchek knows Jake better than anyone. He's been looking at, in particular his elbow for a long time. So, we trust his judgment when he looks at these things, and he'll give us the green light, or maybe it'll be a more nuanced conversation than that. But we'll wait to see what he sees tomorrow.
And with Jake, would you contemplate the same kind of thing you did with Carrasco, where maybe part of the ramp up occurs at the major league level, given the calendar?
I mean, I think that it's just logically makes sense. Have we, gotten down the road where we're having those conversations yet? No, it's too early to have those conversations. But I think, it's obvious where we are in the calendar. So, again, with guys like Noah, guys like Jake, we think they can impact the game in different ways. So we just need to figure out what makes the most sense given the time that we have remaining in the season.
Laura?
You mentioned you want to see Jake regardless of whether or not you guys are in the race. What do you think you can garner from seeing him play in games, even if you guys aren't really going anywhere?
Well, we'll learn about how he's doing physically. I mean, it's important for him to be, in a good place going in the off season. It can influence how we set up his off season plan, what he's going to do in terms of working out, a throwing program, all those types of things. You learn a lot about the player whenever he's pitching in competition. So there's value there, even if he never gets in a game, just getting him to that point to see how he responds physically, and I think we'll learn something that'll help us going forward.
Does that take care of everybody? Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Dave. One more from Dave.
Hey, Zach, just like, how do you quantify what it's been like? I mean, it seems like you guys have been used to having Jake out for so long that it doesn't really, you can't really factor in what he's meant, but the season that he was having, obviously, before he got hurt, is it tough to kind of quantify what he's meant as far as losing him in that respect?
I mean, he's having a historic season, so obviously it's a big loss anytime any team loses a player of that caliber. Our focus is not so much on kind of, who's unable to contribute at this time. We're just focusing on trying to get the most out of the guys who are healthy and on the field and try to win as many games as we can.
And you guys are confident from what you've seen with his MRI so far, Zach, that you don't anticipate this being some sort of surgical thing later down the line, as far as what you guys have seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, that's based on the information that I have. I'm confident that this is something that, like I said, we'll learn more as we go, but obviously if it was something he was having surgery, we wouldn't be even considering going down this path of ramping him up. So, there's no reason to believe that unless something changes when we start ramping him up. But right now, yeah, I don't expect it to be, I don't have major concerns long term.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.